All right, next question for today. Hi Matt, I caught something you said in an old video somewhere. You said firefighters were using saunas to successfully detox the chemicals and fight diseases associated with them like cancer. It's pretty alarming how much the off-gassing from fires can contaminate a firefighter, and the direct correlation I've found linked to causing certain diseases in just a few short years after. I haven't seen you mention anything about how these guys were getting this stuff out, but wanted to ask if you knew more or where to look on the specific details. Also, if you have an opinion on what method would really work for the smoke chemicals, that would be great. I know you don't like to comment on types of cancers and diseases, just looking for the right info and how it ties to saunas. Now that I think about it, does the sauna matter for this? Also heard through the grapevine that you helped some stations get saunas in bulk at discount for the firehouses. If there's an opportunity for that, please let me know. Thank you very much. Okay. I'm in the sauna right now, so maybe I should have done this question at the computer so I could look stuff up and send you some links. But I know a lot of it off the top of my head without checking any of the references. But there's got to be a disclaimer here. You are correct. I usually don't talk about certain types of diseases and saunas. There has to be AMA disclaimer and FTC disclaimer. I am not any type of medical advisor in any way. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. I don't attempt to portray one at all. You should take any advice that comes across as medical advice from me, which is not medical advice. You should think of me as clinically completely insane, and everything that I say has absolutely no validity to it whatsoever in this context. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, it's pretty ridiculous that you have to do that, but okay. So you want to know how firefighters got detoxed from the 9/11 Twin Towers? Yeah, I have mentioned that in old videos. I haven't mentioned it in a while. I don't like to talk about specific stuff like that because it just opens up a huge liability for me. However, I am in contact with a lot of people all the time about their own experiences, also with research teams. Also, labs will contact me at various points in time and talk about studies that they're doing and things like that. But as a general rule, I do not talk about that stuff publicly, but I will help you here because I know this stuff by heart. The way that the firefighters detoxed themselves from the 9/11 Twin Towers was pretty simple. They used a protocol. I think Dr. Yu has some stuff online about it, but basically they use the Hubbard protocol, which is the protocol from the Scientologists from way back when they detoxed the people off the drugs. I'm in the sauna right now, or I'd go to the bookshelf and show you the books. He has specific books. I think it's called Clear Body, Clear Mind. There are two separate versions of the book. The newer version, which looks nicer, it has like a clean waterfall in the front. That one has some stuff removed that you want to see. So you want to get the older version. It's got like yellow letters or something. If you come up with pull up some of my other videos, you'll probably see a picture of it. Aside from that, basically what the Dr. Yu protocol did is they harnessed the advantages of using vitamin B3, which is high dose niacin, not nicotinic acid, not nicotinamide, which is the slow release version. That doesn't work. You've got to have the flushing niacin. You also have to have some different types of mineral support in order to do this, but it's all outlined in the book. I talk about it in some other videos as well. But essentially what they do is harness the power of lipolysis. What they wanted to do is use the niacin to increase circulation. They also used pre-exercise in addition to, before the sauna sessions in order to get the heart rate up, get circulation flowing, get that good flush going. And then what they want to do is just get the fat cells They want to release as many toxins as possible from the fat. Brain is also largely fat, so a lot of the brain symptoms that people were experiencing can be reduced very quickly by doing infrared sauna detoxes and combined with niacin therapy. I'm trying to think what else was in your question. How are the firefighters? That's how they detox the firefighters. I mean, it's basically like 20 minutes of cardio, do a sauna session. In the olden days, before the infrared saunas, they were using steam saunas, which is high heat. Both of them work. Usually people can't tolerate the high heat right off the bat as well. So a lot of people propose that infrared saunas are better. I don't know if they're necessarily better. They both work. The intention is to get you flushing, increase the circulation, get you sweating, and then somehow capture those toxins. And there's another component to it too that's not mentioned in a lot of the detox videos and Dr. Yu stuff. You'll want to take intestinal binders because the body can only handle mobilizing so many toxins. Some stuff is going to get left behind. If you have leaky gut, it's just going to reintroduce itself into the system. And so you'll want to use, I've got videos on what binders bind to what. Some binders are good. Activated charcoal is the one that everyone talks about, but it's probably not my favorite. I don't think it works the best. It's just like the most general all-around one that does work. You want to be careful about taking that long term. It can kind of wipe away the good things with the bad things, so to speak. So if you find out that you have a certain type of heavy metal or a certain type of chemical, you'll want to match the binder up that you primarily use with whatever that is. So certain things like silica have a high affinity for aluminum. Other binders would have a high affinity for lead and for other things, and they're not necessarily interchangeable. Some people make a cocktail where you take all of them to bind with everything. You can do that, but in most cases, people have elevated stuff that's specific. So like my initial hair test, mercury and aluminum was elevated. However, after I started detoxing a little bit, aluminum shot up a little bit. And so I started taking more silica binders that have an affinity for aluminum specifically. I was taking products that are made for that. One of my favorite is Interos Gel. It's Russian. You can get it on Amazon. It should have an English listing. But a lot of people are freaked out because it is Russian and a lot of the information on it is in Russian. You have to translate it, and it's like, whoa, do I really want to be taking something? But it's super solid, very easy on the GI tract, very good for aluminum and a couple other metals. However, that's not a blanket piece of advice for everyone. You know, like I said, everyone has different types of toxicities. Firefighters, I would be most interested in different types of chemicals. So I would use a generalized intestinal binder for that. If it is metal related, you could do stuff like Pectrosol C. You could do coconut activated charcoal. You could do like Interos Gel like I like. There are some zeolites, but a lot of the zeolites are contaminated, so you have to be careful about where you source those from. What else? There's bentonite clay. There's different types of bentonite clay. There's a liquid bentonite clay. Sometimes those are contaminated too. You have to be careful where you get them from. There's a green bentonite clay that I kind of like quite a bit. I have a couple variations of, but again, I'm in the sauna. Those are in the kitchen. If you got follow-up questions to this, I can always make, specific videos. Just send me like a bullet point list and we can make a video that goes into detail about what to do for what and blah, blah, blah. I also haven't finished the sauna detox guide. I've been working on doing videos for that for a long time. It's very tricky though. I'm not a medical professional. I don't play one, or I don't portray one. And I'm very skittish when it comes to telling people to do specific things for a specific condition. That's not really my place. However, it's very hard to ignore because the sheer amount of people that I've come into contact with through the sauna stuff, basically customers that buy saunas and people out there that are struggling with things like I am or have or whatever, even though I'd have a tremendous improvement, you learn a ton from other people's experiences and hearing things and hearing their success stories and hearing their failures. If you've got somebody that has, chronic Lyme and they've got some metals and they just can't seem to get them down, they've done everything but a sauna. They did chelation, didn't work. They tried, what they call organic natural chelation using things like cilantro and chlorella and all this stuff. Then they go to synthetic chelation. That didn't work. Some of them even get sicker. Their methylation pathways aren't open, or it cripples their adrenals and they just slip into chronic fatigue and they can't get off the couch. I've been through that myself. It's no fun. And then, other people do get into things like ionic foot baths. That's something I'm also testing. The ionic foot baths might actually be faster for detoxing certain metals. However, you've got to have a good one, from what I've seen, that reverses polarity. The only thing that I don't like about that is that those are generally very expensive. So you've got one camp of people that says, ionic foot baths are a scam. Well, yeah, they're probably a scam because you bought a $100 cheap China unit from, China that doesn't have the right plates in it, doesn't have the right doesn't switch polarity at all. So if you need positive, it's negative, or vice versa. There's a list that you can find online about which polarity binds with what, or at least assists it. And you can also combine that with different types of chelating and binding agents, which work really, really well. However, the jury is still out on that. I'm testing it. I've got one in the other room. It's very expensive. It's a $2,000 unit. It's one of the best ones that you can get, but I did a ton of research. But I don't really want to say yes or no on that. And I don't think it's the number one thing that's applicable to your situation. For firefighters, the number one thing that I'd probably worry about first is the chemicals, and the sauna is the number one to get those out the fastest and the easiest without taxing the organs. So a lot of people that don't respond well to chelation, and this is just my observation, my research, this is not like clinical data, this is not, this is highly anecdotal, I guess you would say. This is not me pulling from some, scientific study, or I'm not a doctor, there's not a team of doctors saying this, but there are tons and tons of reported cases. I don't want to call them cases, that's a bad word. Let's just say that I've had communication with tons of customers and their results have been astounding. When they don't respond to chelation, or other types of detox pathways are clogged, or they have some other underlying condition that's stopping their body and their organs from getting rid of stuff in the way that it's supposed to, or they have leaky gut, and every time they do chelation, it just goes through their gut wall and recirculates back into the body, and they can't seem to get the timing down of the binders correctly in order to grab onto that stuff, and so they never actually get better, but they're doing all this stuff, spending all this money. A lot of times in those cases, people will start doing sauna real lightly, and they'll respond. Sometimes they can respond negatively to it at first because their adrenals are shot, but generally they start improving and they start to respond well to infrared saunas, and they get some benefit from that. And my my interpretation of all of these people's experiences is that they're allowing their body to sweat, increase circulation, basically give them a light form of exercise without actually doing strenuous activity. I mean, we're sitting in here relaxing basically, and I'm sweating more than if I were running 5 miles, you know what I mean? I keep opening the door to give myself inhalation, but that's only because I'm speaking. A lot of times when I do the videos for you guys, the air gets too hot and I get to huffing and puffing, and I can't stay on track with the words or answering the questions. But my interpretation of this, and what I see over and over and over, is that people are allowing their body, their skin, which is the largest organ, they're allowing and giving it the opportunity to release things through the skin without having to circulate and filter through the other organs that have already been taxed for years and that are already not working. And so the reason that I think so many people, whether firefighter or not, whether they've got high, chemical levels or metal levels or whatever, or maybe for some people, it's just glyphosate or some other types of pesticides or whatever, doesn't really matter. In the past, they were doing all these things, I don't want to say internally because skin is an organ, so it's that would be inappropriate, but kind of the way that you visualize it is, you've got this skin that hasn't been able to expand and release, and I guess breathe is a terrible word too, but you get the idea. And they've been trying to do all these things internally with the organs that have already been giving them trouble. And then all of a sudden, they're like, well, let's just open up the largest organ in the body a little bit each day and see what happens. And so my interpretation of that is that people are finding success through that based on giving the body, allowing the potential for, it's kind of like a fork in the road, right? And so if you're constantly sending toxins to the organs and they're filtering, they're tired, you're not eating the right diet, you're eating too much fat, not enough fat, you're doing this, you're doing that, you don't have enough, blah, blah, blah energy to produce, process stuff. And then all of a sudden there's a fork in the road and you give it a different way. It's like, oh, well, shit. Okay, well, let's send a little bit there. Oh, get a little bit of relief. Oh, let's send some more. Oh, get a little bit of relief. And then so it slowly, kind of titrates up. Or increases incrementally like that. That's what I see happening. That's my observation. That's my rudimentary layman's interpretation of coming across many, many people with Lyme toxicity, heavy metals, mold, all types of different stuff. And so I think that would give you enough information at least to give you a crash course on what to look for. But basically I would look up the Hubbard protocol. It's going to be Scientology stuff. I'm not a Scientologist. I'm not into all that crazy religious stuff. I just take the science that they use to detox people from psychedelic drugs, and I love how it applies to modern day health problems that people are having and how it can help. Dr. U, and that is YU, just YU, not YOU. Kind of a funny spelling. What else did you ask? The niacin stuff. Take a look at some of my other videos. I've got things on the books, and go from there. If I left something out, let me know in the comments. I hope you have a great day.